Savings earn up to 5.75% with deposit insurance up to $20,000 at Fulton National. Time, 2 o'clock.
Contract. That local, if that employee leaves that company, he drops membership in that local union. This local union is made up of the employees of that company. And that local union negotiates with their employer. Then it is affiliated directly to the national headquarters. Now, if there's 5 or 10 or 15 locals of that particular national organization in an area, they may get together and form a regional council in order to coordinate their activities and to swap information. Just very similar to what we're doing today between states. In this diagram, Company B is not organized. Its employees do not have a local, do not have a contract. Each employee bargains individually with the employer. More accurately, someone in the management makes a decision and tells the employees what they're going to do, and they either accept that or quit. Now let me point out something else here that I think is very significant. In this area, that local union's not going to be there unless they've got at least 75% membership. I'd say 50 is a minimum, but usually it's 75 to 100% membership. Where you're bargaining with the company, you usually have a pretty strong group. If you don't, in labor relations, it's called a prayer meeting. Or, let's see, I forget, I used to have another name for it. Boy, it's rough when you go. It's rough when you go in and meet with a real anti-labor company, and you know that the employees in that plant won't support you. I've been in that position many times and gotten terrific contracts by selling management on the idea of mutual cooperation. This is personal philosophy here. Now let's go and look at the craft union. In a craft union, you have people of a particular skill who move from one employer to another, or who are employed in small groups, such as barbers. Barbers don't move around, but there's 2 or 3 or 4 in this shop. So they will have a local union that represents all the barbers in say, one city. These barbers working in that city have a strong community of interest. What affects one affects the others. Where the industrial union covers a given employment situation, the craft union covers a geographic area. In this situation, the employee usually joins the local union. The local union acts as an employing agency, and if this company wants an electrician, they call the local sends him out there. Next week, this electrician may be working for this company. In a given year, he may work for half a dozen companies. And it works almost exactly like your general duty sections and your general duty roster.
Private duty.
Excuse me, private duty. It's almost identical. The names are changed, but the function is, and the type of situation is virtually identical. Now in this situation, this local union would negotiate with all companies in that geographic area who had contracts. And this company, unorganized, that electrician, he does his own bargain. Now you may have people from 15 or 20 different crafts who are working for this same company, but they're not members of that same local union. They're members of their respective craft unions. Now, the industrial type union is almost identical to your hospital situation and your general duty nurse. Your craft union is almost identical to your private duty roster. talk about a typical District Nurses Association structure. In a given hospital, and I think Mrs. Scott quoted 53% of all nurses were general duty nurses. Think of how many classifications you have in the country, and yet 53% of them are general duty nurses. Dr. Lysalt said that 80% of active nurses were working in hospitals. Here's what you have in a typical situation. These are nursing service administrators. And believe me, I got headaches 5 different times trying to diagram this relationship. The union I did in 15 minutes. I finally simplified it to where I thought I could get by. This nursing service administrator, say she's the director, she joins the district association, and she joins the NSA section. This is the primary affiliation. This is the secondary affiliation. This administrator over here, she joins too. The one in the middle doesn't. Then some 10, 15, 20% of you general duty nurses, they join the district association, they join the general duty section. You don't have the majority membership in most situations. I have a green arrow here for representation. I think to make it accurate, you would have to draw a green arrow from each nurse to the hospital. You don't have any real group representation there. Very few places a district represents the nurses in a given hospital. So let's talk about what actually happens. Using the 5th district of GSNA, which is the Atlanta area, greater Atlanta area, covers 4 counties. You have 3,709 active nurses, 1,293 inactive nurses, for a total of 5,002. Your membership as of the last printout, which just came in last week, just barely in time to complete this thing, was 933 members. And this latest increase put them over the 25% mark. And without our membership drive last year and a significant increase, I think it would have been around 21 or 22% 6 months ago. I don't have the exact figure. They have 5 meetings per year, and their secretary tells them that they have an average of 40 to 50 in attendance. I think the other night they had about 80, which was unusual. They have 6 sections. 3 are completely inactive. The private duty was just reactivated. The NSA and the public health are active. Now last year, I'm told that the 5th district tried to reactivate the general duty section and sent out 1,200 meeting notices. 5 general duty nurses showed up. A couple months ago, they had another meeting, general duty section. I think they had 2 people on the program and 1 general duty nurse show up to listen to us. This is not unusual. Well, this may be an extreme case. The secretary is a gal that knows everyone in Atlanta that has any influence. She goes back much farther than Barbara Scott. When they run out of money, she goes around and gets some contributions. Last time it was $6,000. Last year it was $10,000. That's how the district operates.
They don't have district dues?
Beg your pardon?
They don't have district dues?
Yeah, but they don't have enough to operate. They don't have enough members. Now let's look at what you have employment-wise in the 5th district, see if we can start to figure out why. In the 5th district, you have 36 hospitals. You have 1 VA hospital, Georgia Baptist Hospital, Grady, which is county operated. Well, that's a city within itself. Each one of these blocks represents a hospital, and each one is almost it is an organization within itself and has its own problems. Some come under the federal executive order, the state merit system, the county merit system. One or two might come under the Taft-Hartley Act. You must have 15 or 20 types of government here, and I don't know how many different types of hospitals, but each one has their own particular problems. You have 44 nursing homes. You have 8 schools of nursing, 5 health departments, and then all your miscellaneous agencies. I just listed some of the major ones. When the 5th district has a meeting and you have people coming from 36 hospitals, 44 nursing homes, 8 schools, and 5 health departments that have 5,000 different kinds of problems, how can they talk about their problems? How can they do any more than discuss nursing? The fact that I think someone said this morning about the biggest thing was that they were all nurses. And this is when I was grinning, because you hit it right on, whoever said that hit it right on the head. Okay, the general duty nurses, they have their problems. And go back to what I said a while ago. The farther you get away from a person's immediate interest, the less they tend to be involved. Say you have general duty nurses from 10 or 15 hospitals going to a general duty section meeting. They can't talk about their problems. About all you can have is have your social meeting, or maybe an educational meeting. And this is talk going back to your things of a general nature and not your dealing with your specific problems. So they stay home and watch TV. If you got an outstanding speaker or some real good educational program, they'll go. But the general run-of-the-mill district meeting, when you got 15 reports of committees that haven't met, they say it's chucked with that. I've heard many nurses say, I went to one district meeting and that was enough. Not just in Georgia, but throughout, I guess, in every state that I've traveled to. But until lately, I've never really tried to analyze it and figure out why. With this structure, it is virtually impossible for the association to deal with their problems. Go back, how well the organization fulfills their needs, it doesn't, so they don't support the organization. And that's basically why you have that the situation that you have. And going back to the craft union thing, where you had people that switched employers, and your private duty section, the private duty section covers a geographic area in a city such as Atlanta. It is a perfect unit of structure to deal with the problems of private duty nurses. And that's why it's always been so successful. These private duty nurses had a common community of interest, and their section was where they could get together and discuss their problems and take action and set their rates. The general duty section did not fulfill the needs of the general duty nurse, and she didn't support it. And yet, this is where the bulk of your potential membership is. And until the organization starts fulfilling the needs of the mass of general duty nurses, you're not going to have a strong organization. And I don't think that we can really do the job that we need to do for the nursing profession. I'm not talking about economics, I'm talking about the broad program, the broad problems. Again, what membership GSNA has is scattered through probably 100, 200 different employing agencies. It's so scattered that you can't be effective. those 900 and some nurses, to a large degree, represent nurses who are members of the organization because they feel that they're obligated to it as professionals, not because of the service that the organization is rendering. You have your a good percentage of our membership is nursing service administrators, nursing educators, public health nurses. A very, very small percentage of our membership is the general duty nurses. And I think this is typical throughout the country. So these people are scattered. You don't have a majority membership at many places. You have virtually no representation except on the broad term legislative activity. And maybe A&A sets some standards. And this is what you have throughout the country. And as I see it, this is a basic problem of A&A today. That the organization, without this foundation at the employment level that fulfills the needs of nurses, that gets them into the membership, gets them involved, with this scattered, maybe the elite or the professionals, as some terms are used, about the only thing that you can do with this type of a situation is for A&A to issue these position papers at the national level and hope that by some means they'll be implemented, and have a social club, and at the state level go up and try to have some legislative activity. And Ms. Ditchfield mentioned this morning, and I also know that every time they went down there, one of the first questions they asked, how many members you got? How many nurses are in Georgia? And I wasn't there, but I can imagine the wheels that turned in those legislators' minds if they were given accurate answers. So again, you can't work internally, you can't work externally very effectively with that kind of a situation. I can get some arguments on this. Which is a more effective unit? District-wide coordination, I'll give the district. No. Educational programs, district. Social functions, the district. Come to membership, involvement, communications, improving salaries and benefits, improving patient care, implementing standards of practice. The chapter runs away with the district. And if you don't have the membership and the involvement here, you're not going to be very effective here or at the state level or at the national level. Without this foundation of membership and support and involvement, the district, the state association, and the national organization cannot function as it should, internally or externally. Now here's what we have in Georgia at present. We have the A&A, the GSNA, the District Association. And I just used these two other organizations because I thought that they were two most appropriate. I couldn't draw more than this on here, but there's probably 20 and 30 organizations that you could put in here. You have the American Hospital Association, Georgia Hospital Association, the hospital, American Medical Association, Medical Association of Georgia, the medical staff within the hospital. I put some question marks up here about what kind of representation we had between A&A and the AMA and between the ANA and the AHA. I'm not going to start. I'm not that dumb. But at the state level, I'm going to dodge the issue again. I'm going to try to be diplomatic and use the word poor. We're moving in the right direction, fast. There's been much improvement in the last year. At the hospital level, virtually none. So if the organization doesn't have the control within and doesn't represent people without? Is it fulfilling the needs of nurses or nursing?
Let me ask a question about your medical staff, because in relationship with what we have in South Carolina, you would have to put the County Medical Society, and then the medical staff would be after that. Now, don't they have county medical societies
Yeah.
in Georgia?
You got a good point, Dora. I'm gonna dodge it right now.
Well, I really wanted the clarification so that you do have
You've
medical.
also got area hospital councils, don't you?
Well, going on, I think you'll see why I'm dodging it right now. With this 25% of potential membership scattered among hundreds of employing agencies who are largely members out of loyalty to the profession, you can't be as effective as you should be.
Bob, excuse me, just a minute. Would you mind backing up to that previous slide, just 1 second? Thank you.
Is that, say when, Marion?
That's fine, thank you.
Now this is what I hope to help bring about in GSNA in this coming year. And this is the reason for, just part of the reason for our membership drive. We're shooting for 75% membership of active nurses in the state of Georgia. We may not hit the 75% level by mid-71. We're going to make a doggone good running start on it, and I hope we'll have enough momentum once we get going and start this cycle of success and effectiveness and playing one against the other to keep it on going up. And again, this is nothing but a doggone psychological chess game. We have no control over what happens up in that ivory tower at 10 Columbus Circle. But if we're successful and other state associations are successful, this can be improved to change from question to good. As Ms. Ditchfield mentioned, we are moving towards better representation and better relationship at the state level, moving very rapidly. I think we've made significant progress in the last few months. Ms. Pope is very active at this level. Does this answer your question, Dora?
Yeah, I see it right now.
Do you have,
County Medical
Yes, you're
Society?
do you have area hospital councils?
Yes, we do.
Yes. I forget how many areas, regions the hospital association is divided into. And let me tell you something funny about that. When the GSNA board appointed the new EGW Council on Economic and General Welfare, and this is new in Georgia, we used to have the EGW committee. Ms. Butler is chairman of the council. We were setting up our first meeting back in December. And I noticed this name on there, Carolyn Booth. She's district president of the Hospital Association Council of Nursing Service Directors. Board names all through there. So when we had a meeting, Ms. Booth was and I'm very glad that she's on the council so that hopefully she can take back what our objectives are and our methods to this association and tell them that don't have horns growing out of our head. But one member of our council is a officer, a district president, and on the state executive board of this Director of Nursing Services organization of the Georgia Hospital Association. Again, going back by forming the chapters, getting the membership, the involvement here, the representation here, hopefully this will build up a foundation that will make the district work better, the state more effective, and eventually the AMA more effective. So what I'm trying to do, what the EGW Council is trying to do, is to build the foundation under these other units of structure. And I'm not worried about the activities up here. I want to concentrate my efforts at the hospital level, primarily directed at the hospitals and general duty nurses in your metropolitan areas to try to build up this membership here. And I feel that once I do that, with the type of executive board we have, the type of staff that we have at headquarters, that the rest will automatically take care of itself. If these people had the power, the bargaining power, boy, I'm sure they'd do an excellent job of representation.
Bob, before you move away from that, it may be your next was going to show it, but I noticed that you show the chapter with a direct line to the district. You see, the way it currently is, we've got the direct line to the state. Okay.
Possible structure A. Right now, the local units in Georgia, we have not spelled it out in our bylaws. Right after I came in here last year, someone, I forget who it was, asked me where it should be. I said, let's experiment with it and study it before we change our bylaws. Yes, Barbara?
I was saying this last night in your many years ago, we have conceived this in the state of Pennsylvania, and this is why we require NA membership on the part of the chairman at least. And they were hooked into the district sections. Formally, they made up primary representatives in the district sections, which gave a kind of a formal tie-in on our pursuit. If this might be something that could be done, let's say, in the transition stage between thinking about seriously moving this direction.
Well, at this point, I will stick my neck out until, and make this statement, until the ANA and the State Nurses Associations localize their organization. They're not going to be too effective. You may have a terrific membership promotion and push your membership up, but if you don't have the effectiveness, if the organization doesn't fulfill the needs of these members, they'll stay in a while and then they'll drop it. Almost a waste of time to promote membership until you decide, figure out how to make the organization fulfill their needs. And as the dues go up, this becomes more and more critical, because more and more people are going to say, well, at that price, I'm just not that loyal to the nursing profession. Yes, Ms. Ditchfield.
I think it might be well said here that our executive committee has battered this around considerably, and I think our ad hoc structure committee did originally. Actually, these chapters now work in almost a direct relationship to the state, at least to the state office, because of the staff relationship. We tried to think through, let's suppose we had 150 of these local units, how feasible would it be to have representation on the board? We also toyed with the idea of, at one time, of forming a council of chairmen of chapters and having this type of representation on the board. Then we looked at some of our outlying districts, because we still are predominantly a rural state. How feasible a council might be of the chairman. This could be very large in itself. Now, that a state council chairman then might have representation on the board. But these are, every way you look at this, you run into some type of a problem. At the moment, we maintain a direct relationship out of headquarters, and I would say our executive committee maintains a very close relationship. Many of our members meeting with these groups from time to time. We are encouraging them to participate at the district level, and we have had a number of the chapter people who ran for office this past year. So they're becoming more involved at the district, and it might very well be that these groups will find their place at the district level. So I think at this time, we're not quite ready to say whether there should be a direct relationship to the state in truth and some arrangement worked out on this basis, or whether they will come through the district. And it might very well be that the chapters may create a stronger district. I think this might very well happen. So many of our executive committee have mixed feelings, and we're open to suggestions as to how this relationship should be set up.
The GSNA Executive Committee met back at headquarters several months ago, and I sat in on the meeting, and I was very amused. There were 8 people there, and 4 of them were active chapter members, out of 4 separate chapters. There's Mary Jane Schumacher, who will be on the program tomorrow as a head nurse at the VA. She's the director of GSNA. And she's going to report on how the formation of a chapter affects the organization, the district, and the state. Goes to the staff nurse. There's a relationship, yes, but it's not as strong as it is between a group of staff nurses. These nursing service administrators form their chapter. They get together and talk about management problems. And the chapters coordinate their activity and their social functions through their district. And you get the unity there and try to get over some of this internal division. Once you have these chapters and the organization fulfilling the needs and improving communications at this level, then the district can have social meetings and bring the nurses together and develop the unity. They can have educational programs. The district is vitally necessary for coordinating the chapters in a given area, geographic area. But we will form chapters in any group of nurses who have a common community of interest. They might be nursing service administrators in those 44 hospitals. It might be the nurses in those, 36 hospitals. It might be the nurses from all the nursing homes in 5th District, where the basic guideline will be a group that has a strong community of interest enough to where they can benefit by meeting. Now, with the elimination of your state sections and the setting up of the conference groups, then the nurses in each particular field who feel a need to get together with other nurses doing their type of work, they do this in the conference group. So I think with the combination of the conference group to take care of nurses who have a specialty field, whose community of interest is a similar type of work, fulfilling the need here, say of bringing operating room nurses together, or CCU nurses, or what have you, or the NSA, the equivalent of your NSA section, and your chapters down here, that we pretty well have eliminated the inherent weakness in structure. Now this may not be perfect, but we're moving in the right direction. We haven't worked out all the answers. This is another possibility, that the chapters would be directly related to GSNA, and then the district would be a council of chapters. And where a nurse wasn't in a chapter, in a situation, say she's an office nurse by herself and doesn't have an active chapter, she still joins the district. She can still join a state conference group. So this can bring, with this approach, we can make this transition very gradual, no upheavals, and maybe with a minimum of problems. Let me go back a little bit. Many people ask me, do you propose doing away with districts? when you get chapters in all these places, you're going to need that district to coordinate their activities. You're doggone right you are. Question is, when you have a business meeting, do you have all these 5,000 nurses coming up there, or a committee representing each chapter? Another thing that we're toying with is to have the district meetings 4 times a year and having chapter meetings in the intervening months. 2 months you'd have chapter meetings, the 3rd month you skip and you have a district meeting. And maybe a social function, educational meeting. And this way, we won't have 40 or 50 nurses at a district meeting. We ought to have 500, 600 in the Atlanta area. Now this is some of the theories that at this point, the things that I've worked out more or less, and going far beyond the chapter concept. Once when we set up the chapter, had to figure out where you put it. But my approach has all the way through has been, not EGW, how can we build an effective organization? I go back to what I said this morning. We have to unite nurses. The nursing service administrator, the nurse educator, the general duty nurse, the private duty nurse. We need all the unity that we can get. I think that's all of it. I'm going the wrong way. Turn on the lights, Alice. Okay. Tear me up.
Bob, have you, I don't know really how to raise this because it has 2 parts to it. Have you made plans as to how you're going to start the chapter? Is this going through the districts, or what I'm really getting at is how will you create the interest organization chapter so they can have a real burning need or a crisis?
Through a statewide educational program, Helen. The plans here, which were approved by at the December meeting of the EGW Council and the state membership committee, we met jointly because the functions, we were involved in functions of both. We approved a very comprehensive plan. Part of it was this NSA conference to try to let nursing service administrators and hospital administrators know what we were doing and why and how, to try to get them to work with us and support this effort. Then we are going to have the membership drive. It is already approved that we will have area conferences in almost every district. We will show them something similar to this visual aid series that I've just shown you, and try to sell them on the idea that we're not just trying to get membership. We are trying to build an organization that can fulfill their needs. We're selling a product and asking for their help. And once the membership contest is going, and part of it is 2 mass mailings going to every nurse in the state, and there's some pretty deep planning and scheming that has gone behind this to make it successful. Then after these things go on and we start building up the membership, this supposedly will end next June with the statewide contest winners taking our hopefully 2,000 plus new members to A&A headquarters. This is the grand prize that we're proposing. A committee of 2 or 3 people. The exact details haven't worked out. But this concludes part 1 of what we have called our program for professional advancement. Part 2 is in the development stage of how to make the organization effective once we get the members in. And this will consist of going through to as many districts as possible, holding more conferences, showing them how a chapter operates, how you organize a chapter. By this time, I hope to have sample bylaws, a manual for chapter chairman, and bring these people in and show them how to do it, what the advantages are, and give them a real first-class educational program at this level. And hopefully, within a year, we can have chapters scattered throughout the state of Georgia. Now, what is happening, say up at the Talmadge Hospital chapter, they organized, they got a nice little increase, they're going to get another one. They've eliminated some of the problems. They've got 4 paid holidays. They just having a ball. Well, don't think that the other nurses in in Augusta don't know what they're doing. Once we start establish successful chapters, just a few demonstration units throughout the state, it will spread.
Well, one of the things that we find that we've been most negligent about is servicing a group once it gets going, and nurturing and keeping that interest up, because you get some of these things you've talked about and things go along pretty good, but then everything gets to going pretty good and interest begins to wane.
It's easy to get that interest and enthusiasm at the beginning. It's hard to hold it.
Well, what are your projected plans to hold it?
Education, support, communications.
What kind of staff expansion are you envisioning, if any?
None.
Glad I live in Tennessee.
Ms. Culpepper, I used to cover several states, and these chapter officers are developing wonderful leadership ability. I would put some of our chapter officers' leadership ability up against some of the people at the national level right now, and wouldn't have any doubts about it.
I will too. Many of our local unit people in Tennessee and many of our district people, but I just think there's an awful lot of support that has to be generated in terms of basic data and dissemination of information about standards and this whole thing.
Goes back to what I said.
This organization is more complex than what we've got now, which means that I see a real need for the staff support that's going.
Go back to what I said a while ago. The 2 things that made an organization successful: number 1 is fulfilling the needs, and number 2 is communications.
Okay, what are your plans on communication?
As A&A establishes these standards, I see the chapters as being very instrumental in implementing them at the employment level, and this goes back to the recommendation of your technical advisory group in 1963. This is what they said, and they, by the way, they call them professional chapters. We have local units which have now changed to chapters that have been they're going on 3 years now, and they're still going good.
Well, you said that when you were with another organization, you discovered you had a local that you didn't know existed. I've been there for 32 years. I'd hate to see this happen in nursing.
Well,
We've got them, but they're not paying dues now.
yes, Barbara.
How do unions train their shop stewards?
Let me give you one of my long-winded answers. We had an EGW committee meeting last year at GSNA headquarters, and I was proposing the chapter concept. And one of the people there, nursing service administrator, said, Bob, where are you going to get the people to run these chapters? And I said, we're going to get them out of the general duty nurses, the staff nurses, members of each chapter. He says, he was appalled at this. We argued for an hour and a half. And I said, look, I can go out in the state of Georgia and find any group of 25 people, I don't care whether they're black or white, educated or uneducated, and develop leadership out of it. If I can do that of uneducated factory workers, and a doggone well I can do it with nurses. So when the chapter up at Talmadge first organized, they elected Jeanette Bainham as their chairman. Jeanette came down to our annual meeting, and buddy, she stole the show. She made me look like an amateur. She was on our program for 15 minutes. On several different occasions, I have been very concerned that this chapter was fixing to make the wrong move. In fact, when Miss Pope and I rode up there on December the 7th to the VA meeting, chapter meeting, which I referred to earlier, all the way up there I was very concerned because I knew that the chapter had voted to do something that I thought was basically wrong, that might destroy or hamper the relationship that we had with nursing service administration and hospital administration. But still, I strongly believe that these people should run their own show. I went in, I sat down with Jeanette Bainham and Francis Knapp, who was vice chairman. And Jeanette said, Bob, said, we've been thinking. Said, we think this is wrong, blah, 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 blah. And even though their chapter had voted for them to do something, they said, we're not going to do it. They had reached the right conclusion, they followed it through, and I was very relieved. And I see this happening, that these people have very, very good judgment. And it's such an appropriate unit. I think I just stumbled around till I found your answer. As long as they have problems, they're going to need that chapter. And I'm sure that they're not going to run out of problems. There is this problem that in many situations you've had this sudden flare-up of activity involvement. But with the proper type of educational program, proper type of support, and this can be very limited, educational material, communications, will make them survive. Maybe not all of them. And I'll tell you very frankly, if a group of people not concerned enough about their own problems to want to do anything with them, I won't even waste time on them. I say, when you get dissatisfied enough to want to do something about it, or concerned enough, I'll come in and help
What
you.
kind of monetary support does a chapter have?
Some of them pass a hat around and charge 25 cents per member per month, and these that have done this, they've built up a nice little kitty. Some of them
What kind of provisions do you have for being aware of what exists and what doesn't in the association's name?
I have a great deal of faith in the democratic process. We turn these people loose. I don't think that we can control them. Once in a while they may make a mistake. But I've seen a lot of mistakes made at the state
But you're
level.
not trying to keep track of what's going on.
I keep track. But now, if I go into a chapter and they vote to do something and I disagree with it, I may advise them on it, but that's as far as I'll go. I won't even twist their arm. I'll state what I think is right, or state my feelings, or give them some information.
This is a basic point of difference in philosophy in terms of
Well,
whole operation.
are
from
you
one
worried
state to
about
another.
possibly jeopardizing your nonprofit's status with IRS in the event that they collect dues and then use it for some purpose that would jeopardize everyone's status as a nonprofit?
I guess I get hung up on some of the corporate principles involved there.
What they're doing now is just a voluntary kitty. Some of them are and some of them aren't. Really, Ms. Culpepper, these people have very minimal needs. They're meeting in bank buildings. Many of our banks here have community rooms, and like I said a while ago, some of them that have...
the one thing that gives me real concern is
What do
what
they
you
need
made
money
about
for?
about communications, and I just think, you can't get past the point of printed communications for effective information to get out. It takes money to do effective communications. It takes somebody doing the writing, it takes the printing, the distribution, the mailing, and the whole bit. And I just think, that we need to keep our eyes wide open in terms of the ramifications of what we are really saying when we say an informed membership and adequate communication systems.
Of course, though, if they get the members, if this is effective and they get the members, they will have the money to do just about what they want. The VEA, Virginia Education Association of Virginia, has 95% of the teachers as members, and they have, for this year, adopted $1 million budget.
What kind of a building do they have, Ms. Walker? This is one thing that I'm concerned with.
The state headquarters?
Yeah.
It's a 2-story old house.
Oh, really? Here in Georgia, one thing that shakes me up is that I drive around and see some multi-million-dollar union halls. Georgia Hospital Association got this lavish building.
But we don't all get upset.
Ms. Mallison disagrees with me. I think that the type of building that we meet in is a reflection on the association, and I would like.
I go back to the Book of Acts. I don't think it makes a
I would like to have a state headquarters that would be half as pretty as some of the other states. We're in an old building. Are y'all
Some of us have pretty buildings and we're not doing anything for the membership. So
Okay.
I'd rather be doing something than have an old house.
Well, my whole point of contention here is that, I think you've done a great job of planning, the implementation phase of the thing. But one of the things that just scares me to death is that we hold out a bill of goods, and when the time comes to pay up on that, we got to be sure that we've got the goods to deliver when we get all these people on board. And so, I think there's got to be the expansion of advanced planning in terms of whatever kind of staff support or membership information or whatever in the same kind of detailed planning. Or else we come to the day when we got to deliver the goods and we're caught short.
What's going to happen when all those nonconformists become vocal in our association?
Bob, I'd like to hear you elaborate a little more on Barbara's question.
I don't think he answered it.
Would you repeat it, Barbara?
Oh, well, I asked how unions train their shop stewards.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'm sorry, I jumped the track on that. The whole labor movement is run by people who have very little or no formal training. It's through experience.
it's handed down from father to son?
No. It's person gets in the local and they shop steward quits or goes somewhere and they say, oh, we need a new shop steward, we'll pick Joe, and Joe becomes a shop steward and he starts getting experience and moves up. This is the way I got up to national representative, just almost by accident. The way that regional director.
The structure is there, the unit's been there, it's not a brand new type of thing. It's not a new experience for them.
Barbara, I think that about 90% of labor relations is common sense. And if you want to really get fouled up, get some lawyers in it.
Oh, of course, I agree with you in your favor of the capacity to give leadership. I've seen it happen. There's one thing that's very risky, I found where we were successful and got good leaders in the local units. The smart management promoted that nurse right out of the local unit. In fact, the one institution we had a contract with, the management made her director of nursing.
Barbara, I was business manager of a local union in Tampa, Florida, very large company. One January the 1st, they promoted 21 people to supervisory position, and 19 of them were union officers or shop stewards. We trained them, proved their potential, and many of these people went right on up in management. I have been surprised.
They don't support unions after that, though. It seems to me many of the union people have gone up in management.
When they come in the next day, their whole outlook has changed. And let me give you one more experience that this little girl, Frances Knapp, that is coming in tomorrow. She's driving in from Augusta to appear on the program. I've never seen her speak, but just about that much. When Jeanette Bainham resigned, and this is a new chapter, only formed in August. Jeanette's father's had several heart attacks. She's got all kinds of family problems. She's getting married this month. She said, I just have too much on me to do a good job of the chapter. I'm going to resign. Well, we were in a meeting there at the Students' Lounge at the medical college. So everyone looks around and says, who are we going to get to replace Jeanette? Boy, we couldn't get anyone to run against her. She's a crackerjack. And Frances Knapp was just the kind of girl that went along, and you know, she wasn't a pushy type, and she'd just sit back and on the back row and smile. Well, several nurses in that meeting got Frances out in the lobby and started twisting her arm. Well, she didn't want this job. She didn't want the responsibility. She didn't want the work it involved. They finally got her to agree to accept it. I went out with to dinner with Frances following that, and we spent 3 hours talking, and her mind was going 50 miles an hour on how she could make that chapter work, what it needed, communications. All of a sudden, she got to be the most serious person in the world. Her whole personality changed, and she was no longer the happy-go-lucky Frances Knapp. She was a concerned Frances Knapp. And she had worked her heart out. The other day, this new hospital administrator's secretary tried to short-stop her to keep her from getting in and setting up for this appointment. She went through 2 of them, called him, says, "You come to our chapter meeting." And I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about the ability to run these chapters. I'm not worried about the problem of developing educational materials to give them the guidelines. With this type of approach, I think that I can take care of most of the chapters in the state of Georgia, and as we go along, develop other leadership that can go in. You take Ms. Wood back there. She's been very active. She's been through it all. She's getting very knowledgeable in labor relations.
How about the DNA board of directors? How do they react? Do you go through them, or do you ask?
I think I have a pretty good relationship with most of our district presidents. Last Thursday night, I met with President of 5th District, Mrs. Joe Flynn, and Joe was supposed to be out here this afternoon. I don't know what happened. And, beg pardon?
Bob, the weather is very bad. As a matter of fact, it's dropped from 37 to 32 since about 3 o'clock, and it's raining. The airport is closed and the lobby is full, getting people checked in. So I think they're saying visibility is very poor even on the road. It's very foggy.
This is probably why she's not
The
here.
weather is on.
But we're working. We are
One
going.
more, I have one more. You know, like you say, you have bylaws. Do you supply the bylaws to this?
I'm going to give them some models to go by.
A model.
A model.
Okay. Because in some areas, you know, when they're farm local units, they have no finances. So they'll say, well, won't TNA supply us with the bylaws and with the material and so forth?
Well, you see, by having this money allocated to EGW, we have a budget that we can get by with. And I do a lot of mailing and stuff for our chapters at this point. A whale of a lot of it. Once we get more chapters, I won't be able to do this. Do y'all have any other questions, or would you like to have a discussion on this and let me sit down? Again, I don't claim, or we don't claim to have all the answers, but I hope that some of the stuff I've shown you this afternoon is at least part of the answer. Thank you.